Howdy, folks, and welcome to this edition of DeadPit Reviews, a bunch of stuff that 40-year-old people shouldn't review. And up this time, buddy, we got one that we should never have to watch, but we did.
It sounds like the Lost Motley Crue song.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's actually a pretty killer song in the movie called Welcome to the Dollhouse.
From 1995.
Yeah, that the guy sings. And I was like, this is pretty interesting, actually, because I'd actually like to cover that song.
It's directed by Todd Solondz, who I didn't look him up if he'd done anything else, but this is definitely like it was a Sony Studio Classics, like one of those independent movies that they released. And I'd heard of the name of the movie before, but I'd never seen it. And I don't know if I ever would have voluntarily watched it, but thanks to our buddy Demal, who always picks these very interesting movies to watch. And I don't know how he comes up with these, because there's absolutely zero horror in this movie at all. This is,
I guess he kind of figures like we do enough horror films and stuff like that, like, throw something else in. And I don't mind that. It's just some of these movies make me feel so weird watching them because they're like totally not, we're not the target audience these movies at all, really. And it's interesting because I wonder sometimes, like with some of these movies, like who are these movies made for? Like, because this movie in particular is very, actually the one I wondered that the most about was that one we watched last time, which was the Uncut Gems guys movie. I can't remember the name of it. I've forgotten the name of the damn thing by now.
fuck, I've forgotten the name of it too. It's just
That's how much that movie stayed with me. Yeah. But like this one's a lot better than that. It's just, it's not a movie that I would ever seek out to watch because it's not,
Well, at least with this one though, it was an easy watch. It was an actually sort of an entertaining movie. You're like, it's not really about anything in particular. Like,
that seems to be the theme. Is like a lot of these movies we are to review are not really about anything. They're just kind of character studies.
yeah. I like the fact though that this was, I mean, we can talk about it a little bit. It's set in the mid 90s when it was filmed.
Yeah.
The character's name is Dawn Weiner, who they call her the Weiner dog.
Yeah.
In the movie. It's Heather Matarazzo's debut movie, who she's definitely familiar if you've seen her. Been in many movies over the years. Scream 3, I think it was Scream 4. Was she in Scream 4?
I don't remember.
I think she was briefly in
Scream 5.
Maybe she was, maybe it was Scream 5.
Yeah.
And then she was in one of the Hostel sequels. I think it was Hostel 2.
Yeah.
She was in that. She's been in a lot of stuff. And she's definitely like, and I don't mean to be mean because, I don't think she's ugly or anything, but she does not look like a Hollywood actress at all. Still to this day, she doesn't look like a Hollywood actress.
But that's what makes it great for this movie in particular, is because like you're looking for like a loner misfit kind of, looking kid that would not fit in with like a crowd of kids in that grade, and you definitely got it with this.
But yeah, she's in 7th grade and is definitely a misfit, is bullied by her classmates. You can tell this is 95 is when this was made, because some of the expletives used in this movie.
Yeah.
You can't do that now, Uncle Bill. We can't even repeat it.
No. I mean, they were throwing around, like, I'll put it to you this way: the R word, the F word, and not, when I say F, I don't mean like that F word, the other F word, like constantly in this movie.
The L word.
The L word. That was a good series, buddy. You remember that series back in the day?
Oh yeah, I love that. It's in the mid 90s suburban I think it's middle school.
It was.
And again, it kind of follows her life. They follow her at school, her home life. At home, she's kind of like the odd one too, because the younger sister's the pretty one and the older brother is the smart one. And she's just kind of there.
There's a great scene, man, that kind of where they set this character up. It's probably one of the best character setups I've ever seen in a movie. The very beginning of the movie is like a pan shot, wide angle shot that starts off with like her and then moves around and you see that it's like a cafeteria
Mhm.
and like she's just kind of standing there awkwardly trying to think of like where she's going to sit and who she's going to sit with because like she doesn't have any friends. And my God, like if that didn't like I had like flashbacks to fucking
Oh
middle
yeah.
school. Like that's like exactly what happens. Like you're just scanning around, like trying to figure out like where you're gonna sit. Like it's just it was too real. Like
Well, you
that
got to
scene
think
was
too, the time frame. This was 95. So she's
yeah,
playing like a middle schooler. We were like in our first, second year in high school.
yeah.
So a lot of the stuff like the lunch trays and everything, that was the lunch trays
Looks
like
exactly
they
the same, yeah.
and just the clothing too that the kids had on, like that was the style then, you know. So it was definitely a nostalgic kind of deal too, because there'd be things in the background or like, hell yeah, man. There's a 3 liter of Coca-Cola. You remember the big
3
3 liters
liters.
they had?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
but anyway, eventually, I think her brother starts this band and they suck until they get this guitarist and singer.
it's like the Quadratics or something like that. The
Yeah.
name of the band is something crazy like that.
And Steve Rogers is his name. And he's kind of like kind of like a rock looking guy, he's a high schooler, of
Yeah.
course. And Dawn kind of falls for him because he's like the only one that's not like pushing her away immediately. Like he's talking to her a little bit. So she instantly kind of falls in love with him just because of that, right? And
Right.
once and think of this, she's 13, 14 years old or whatever, and is trying to, you know,
And it's weird because she doesn't even look 13 or 14.
right.
Like she looks like a kid, like a really, really young kid. And like everybody that I think that's part of the movie too. Like what they were trying to like throw around there was like everybody in her grade basically looks older than she does too. And they all look like more put together and just she just looks like completely out of place with
She
everything
dresses
going.
like a little kid still,
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
But the the whole storyline there is like of course like he's not really like interested in her because he's got other people and stuff like that, but she's like madly in love with this guy and keeps like trying to like figure out a way to get him to notice her, and she goes around to his ex-girlfriends and like talks to them about it, and they throw like dialogue around in this movie where I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like some of the stuff they say with like a straight face, no like, humor or irony or anything like that. It's just like it's actually how kids talked, but like it's bizarre to kind of hear it like
Right.
that in a movie. You know what I mean? Like because nowadays they don't make movies where you actually hear about like how kids really talked at that time. Nowadays you hear movies where they cut all that shit out and there's like 20 different,
Yeah, and
diverse people that
it's as politically correct as it could
yeah.
be. And back in the day, I mean, I guess now everybody's wanting to be all inclusive and everything, but this is definitely a reminder of the 1990s growing up around this time frame. And I guess the whole thing is with the movie, and it kind of ends the same way. You get inside this girl's life and how shitty it really is around this time
Every
period.
that's one thing about that I noticed too. Everybody hates this girl.
Right.
It's really overplayed. Like her family hates her. Like her, all everybody in the school hates her. Like nobody like, and they're
She's not close with
all
anybody in the movie
no,
either. Yeah,
they're all mean to her. Like it's
she's
just
by herself, yeah.
yeah,
And then, like, the only friend that she does have, she ends up pushing him away by
yeah.
I don't want to give it away, but definitely a black comedy, I think. It's very in the vein of Napoleon Dynamite, although it's not as goofy as that, I don't think.
No, It's like I was saying, like it's like a more depressing and like realistic Napoleon Dynamite. So it's like super dark and like where Napoleon Dynamite was just kind of goofy and out there and kind of like whimsical. Like this movie is just like fucking just dark, and the humor is really based upon like you hearing stuff that you're not supposed to hear rather than like, somebody being goofy or doing a funny dance or something like that.
Right.
The humor in this movie is unintentional, I think, really.
But Heather Matarazzo, she does an amazing job in this, considering like she was legit 13 years old in this, and this was her first role.
It's crazy to think about that too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's unreal, like that she did that good of a job, and this movie was her. This was like it followed her the entire movie, and I honestly think like a lot of the character of Dawn was her too. That was probably how it was for her growing up in school and stuff like that, because she's an odd looking girl. She,
Yeah.
especially then. So I couldn't imagine them hiring anybody any better than her.
No, me either. It's the perfect like role for that too. And there's a lot of movies like this that came out in the 90s that were kind of similar. Like you remember Ghost World? I think that was the name of it.
Mhm.
That was kind of like that, and just kind of like coming of age kind of movies where it was really dark and cynical and kind of hyper realistic. And they did that, I guess because the 90s were kind of dark and cynical and in that way too. But yeah, as the movie progresses, like she kind of like alienates everybody in her life and ends up like not getting the guy because like that would be crazy and everything anyway. And it just kind of ends the way that it begins, really. Like she's still in this nerdy kind of pack of people and yeah, doing the same things.
I enjoyed the movie though. I mean, I, as far as like, it's not anything that I would probably voluntarily go back and rewatch. But at the same time, it was entertaining the entire time. I was kind of wondering where they was going to go with it. It's a time capsule from that time period, and there's not a whole lot of movies that's like that that really captures, that mid-90s vibe as well as this movie does. So I enjoyed it for that.
There's another guy in it that's an amazing actor in this too. It's like as to be a kid,
The
basically.
bully guy,
Yes. Yeah.
that yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff actually. A few years after this, he was the abusive boyfriend in Boys Don't Cry. You remember that movie
Oh
with
yeah.
with
Yeah.
Hilary Swank or whatever? So he's done like all kinds of stuff. Like I was looking him up because I was like, I've seen that dude in a lot of shit, but
I know him too as like the shoplifting kid in Empire Records. Like
yes,
that's
yeah,
what I knew him from when I saw him immediately. But he is great in this movie, man. He like the way that he delivers dialogue and the way that he acts is like so natural. Like he's talking about his brother and everything, but like the stuff that he says is like something that somebody, like that would say about like their brother and how he is and just about life and stuff like that in general. Like it really is like super the dialogue and the acting is really supernatural and realistic. I don't mean supernatural like fucking, Ghost Dad, but I mean supernatural like super natural as if like what people would really say in certain situations.
right. Carter Denton says the director's follow-up dark comedy movie Happiness is just as, if not more disturbing than Salo and Cannibal Holocaust. I shit you not.
I've never seen that. I'm not sure I want to see it if it's like that. Damn.
That'll probably be requested next month.
It's like,
But
uh,
yeah, I mean, welcome to the Dollhouse. I think there was a studio in the UK that finally did like a Blu-ray special edition of this too, not too awful long ago. I think it may have been Via Vision or one of those companies like that. And it's a solid movie, man. I enjoyed it, and like I said, I'm kind of surprised that I'd never seen it considering the time that it came out, but
Yeah, it's not
it,
really for us though. You know what I mean?
well, it may not have. I mean, it was one of those movies though that it seems like almost like a serial mom or something like that would have been on IFC back in like the late 90s, early 2000s or something. But I never did see it before.
I didn't either. Let me ask you though, did you not laugh like at some of the dialogue in the movie when people would say it? Because I did. Like,
Yeah.
just because it was it was so just like either cringy or just so fucking nasty or perverted or something like that, and just the way that it was delivered, like, so there was no, you know.
There was the scene too where the ex-girlfriend of what was the guy's name? Steve Rogers was talking about them finger fucking or something like that.
Right. And just says it just like that. Like, so she walks up to this girl and she's like, she's trying to figure out like if she has a chance with him, right? So she
Right.
goes and finds this ex-girlfriend. She's like, so I heard that you guys were like boyfriend and girlfriend at one time or another. And this girl just without hesitating is like, yeah, we finger fucked one time and that was it.
And then like there it cuts to a shot of her looking in the mirror and then she looks at her damn hand.
Yeah, she's like trying to figure out like how it worked.
And then like the next time she sees Steve Rogers, she said, do you like my fingers or they not?
Yes. Yeah.
I have nice fingers.
It's fucking crazy. Oh, but most of it, I was just like in shock about like how mean everything was in the movie. I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, I mean, I remember middle school and high school and it was rough, but I don't think it was that fucking rough. And I was a fucking nerd. So, I mean, goddamn.
I think for some people it may have been, man. Like I remember people acting around certain people like Loogie. You remember Loogie?
Yeah. You're probably right. Like that
there are
girl.
people like that I think were treated similar, probably.
That girl, I feel really bad for her because you're right. Like she had probably hell on earth in middle school and high school.
But that is Welcome to the Dollhouse from 1995. Our buddy Demal on Patreon requested that one for review and always has interesting picks for us to take a look at. So
yeah, that's definitely not something I would have ever thought of. So good job on that one.
Give us the thumbs up.
Up your butt.
Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a if you do.
I want you to. I want you to.
I don't care.
Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that, pal.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Dead Pit on Patreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows and fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.